Welcome to the Joy Reveals podcast, where you'll learn about mind and health hacks, travel and business tips, and ideas on how to become the best version of yourself. Now here's your host, Joy Packard. Let's see what she's going to be revealing today.
All right, everybody, we are live, and this is Joy Packard with the Joy Reveals podcast. I have been missing for a while, but I'm back, and I'm coming back to you with an amazing, amazing guest. I told you guys that I would bring you guys some amazing people, and you know, there's certain people that come into your life that you meet and they stick with you, and every time you think of them, like I'm thinking of this guest right now, it just brings so much happiness to my heart. And so I met this person about 3 years ago. We decided, I think it was like in June, and I ended up going to this retreat in Dallas, and it was a last minute thing that I decided to go to, and I don't even know why I was going to it at the moment. I just happened to see the retreat come up. But to this very day, I know the main reason that I went to that retreat. I mean, of course, I got a lot of stuff out of it, but the main reason is to meet this wonderful lady. And I can honestly say that was, you know, there's no coincidences. I've learned that in my life. I was supposed to meet her. And, you know, I'm going to introduce you to her. Her name is Sitara Faye, and she is ranked the top female psychic mediums in the United States. I don't know if you guys understand that, like the top 5. She's the creator of the Monad Society, which we'll learn more about as we're talking to her. And there's just so many things that I would love to say about her, but I'm just going to, get into the interview, and I'm going to let her tell you guys a little bit about who she is, a little bit about herself. And so, Sitara, I'm so happy to have you here, and welcome everybody who's coming on the replay, because I know that this will be on a replay on Facebook, on the Joy Reveals podcast Facebook page, as well as on at least the audio part will be on at least probably 10 different platforms. So that's exciting. And so, Sitara, with that, I wanted to welcome you and just kind of tell everybody, a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Joy. And I want to go back to the story of us meeting real quick, because it was so powerful. And I'm happy to talk about myself too, but I want to explain this a little bit. Was that I had been invited to come and participate in helping a dear friend of mine put it on. And it was really interesting because there were parts of the whole event that were kind of not coming together as we had hoped. And everything in my bones told me, yes, still go. Yes, still go. Yes, still go. And so I stayed so clear, but there was a very clear knowing that I was going to also meet somebody that was going to be an important part of my life. And I remember we showed up and both had the same shoes. It was just kind of a funny coincidence. And yeah, when I meet people that I feel that connection with, of course I ask for some signs, but what I saw around you is just that glowing. It was almost like you were glowing, like there was a glowing aura around you, and also a giant neon arrow. It was so obvious. It was like a 5D little giant neon arrow that was like, this is the one you're supposed to meet. My guides could not have made it any more clear. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because it was such a fun experience of synchronicity and coming together and knowing of like how this type of magic works. And so that I feel is also just the perfect segue into sharing a little bit about myself. I have been a practicing professional psychic for about 10 years, and I have been teaching through various programs that I've been creating over the last 5 years, teaching people how to develop their own psychic ability through understanding how energy works, and how energy works inside of their own body and inside of their own flow of awareness, by connecting with who they truly are in the core essence of their being. And so to break it down just a little bit more simply, what I like to say that I do is I teach people how to translate frequency. I teach people how to translate energy. So understanding that everything is energy. Absolutely everything has a vibrational core, a vibrational frequency that holds information. And when we start to open our mind into understanding that we can gather information in different ways than we have been taught, i.e., listening to podcasts or reading a book or having a conversation, that when we start to connect more with the subtle realms and subtle currents, it really starts to open the human experience in such magical and almost like in ways that to describe in words only dilutes the experience. So my absolute favorite thing to do in this world, well, one is to connect people to their angel wings, to remind them how to get into the subtle frequencies of the angelic realm. And that is like, it takes one to know one. It's very easy for me to pick out people who are earth angels or people in this world that have not yet remembered where they have come from, because I believe that we come with this like blanket of amnesia. So one of my favorite moments, absolutely bar none, to experience with another human is the moment that they connect with their angel wings and the moment they remember. It's so powerful and it's so beautiful. But even to just kind of take that a little bit more open is to see how people interact with these subtle realms and start to learn about energy from the beginning, as well as all the way to advanced levels of understanding the multidimensional reality that we live in. But those, I would say, are like the two things that really excite me about being a part of this world, contributing, connecting with human beings, and really just seeing this world and environment that we're in as a playground. The more that I can connect with it in that way, the more joyful I am.
And, as these listeners are listening as well, when I met this amazing lady, I had no idea about this space at all. Like this was, I knew I started going, I actually went to an event in December of 2017. And then, when I met Sitara, it was in June at this retreat. And when I met her, honestly, and she probably doesn't even know this, but like I remember seeing her, and I don't know why, but like even from across the room, I was thinking, who is that lady? She just stood out because I don't know, it's kind of like what she's talking about. Like you can really feel the goodness and the energy of people. And I remember being in the car as we were going to one of the dinners or something, and she was talking about she mentioned to you guys earlier about her earth, being an earth angel, and she had her program, the Earth Angels program. And, so I'm just casually asking her, like, hey, what is that? And so she tells me, and I literally at that moment was just like, I'm in, and like, she called me, like, I don't know, I made an appointment to talk to her, and was it a week or two after that event or whatever? And like, literally, like after speaking with her, I was just like so intrigued. And anyway, that's a whole podcast for another day, but just, I will say that was it 9 months or was it a whole year? That program was a whole year, wasn't it?
It was a whole year.
It was a 12-month program. So those 12 months of being in the presence of this lady and being able to speak with her on a weekly basis in class with maybe, 5 or 6 other women completely changed my life. I mean, it changes the way I speak, my words, the way that I interact with people, and it just opened my eyes. And so it's like, when you have somebody that comes into your life that changes your life, it's like, they're pretty, I don't know, it's just super hard to not acknowledge that and to forget that. So, I thank you for that. And I'm so thankful that, you came to the event. Like you say, you didn't know you were coming. I didn't know I was coming. I honestly was going to see Donnie and Marie, the show, when my family was in Dallas, and Donnie Marie was that weekend or whatever. And then this happened to fit in there somehow. And it was just magical. And I look back at it and it makes me super happy when I think about that event. So I, over the last 3 years, you've basically have done so many other things. I mean, it would take 3 or 4 podcast interviews to talk about all the amazing things that you do. But I know that you have some cool things that you're doing right now. And, you can maybe pick one of them right now, and we'll kind of go through that and just kind of let people know, like how to find you and like, what are you up to these days? So.
Beautiful. I'm just going to tune into the field. And I would say that's one thing that I've been really enjoying is I'm intentionally growing my YouTube channel, as Facebook has not become as reliable as it once was. And so what's really fun about doing videos in that way, or even doing a call and having a conversation like this, is that I have the opportunity to connect in to the field of listeners, the field of people that will be tuning into the replay at a future date, to be able to connect in with their hearts, with their minds, with their questions, with their insights, with their curiosities. So I'm going to take a moment to just kind of tune into that and see what topic and what area or what story can I share that's going to be the most beneficial to those that are going to be listening to this collectively. And is it okay with you if I share a bit of light language as well?
Whatever you feel that you're supposed to be sharing.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ai kua saya atukupu ua aka ausoya atania. Iawa yawa ua aka asatati iawa aka upu ukupu sate. Itu kupu ua haya ati iki iawasa akopu ua. Okay, so beautiful. They're like, just share about light language and what that is. So I have been as I mentioned, I've been doing psychic work, working in the magical realms, started my training in my early 20s, yet was a psychic medium my whole life, just did my best to turn my abilities off to function in a very mundane society. So in the last year and a half, this is actually what happened is, as a psychic, it's like we have our lane, the astrologers have their lane, and the tarot readers have their lane, and all of us magical people, we all have like the thing that we do. So I started getting tuned in by actually another client of mine. She started having this woman come and speak on her videos that was speaking light language. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so weird. It's like, again, what those people do. And then but it was in my periphery. It started kind of like coming up a little bit. And then I was updating some stuff in my programs, my online classes, and minding my business, casually doing some computer work. And then I heard very clearly, okay, it's time for you to put down your computer. We have something that's going to come through for you. So just go into meditation, it's not uncommon. So for me, I was like, okay, cool. I'll just put the computer down. I popped in some binaural beats that I really like to listen to when I'm meditating or just sitting there. It helps bring your mind into theta wave state so that you can just drop into clear consciousness a bit easier. And so I was listening to that. And then on YouTube, this video popped up that was like how to activate your light language. So my cat-like instincts of curiosity kicked in. So I'm like, oh, that's so curious. I want to like tune in and see what this is about. And within 7 minutes, I had a full activation of light language. And I started speaking this language, what I would say is fluently, in a matter of 10 minutes.
Wow.
For the next 3 hours, my mouth was going so fast, I couldn't stop channeling it. And I'm here in Indonesia, and there were some construction workers that were like working on the house. And they're all Javanese, so they speak Java and Indonesian. And so I'm over here speaking light language, and I'm like a little bit self-conscious about it. And then I'm like, whatever, they probably just think I'm speaking another language, which is okay. And so I'm like letting it come through. But it got to the point where my tongue like almost had blisters on the sides because I literally could not, it was almost like trying to hold something in that just wanted to come out. So I just eventually surrendered and let my mouth just keep going. And then over the course of the next couple of weeks, it was really interesting because when I started my psychic journey, I had mentors. And when I awoke to my angelic wings, I had people in my community. I had 2 friends that I could call on that were very connected and familiar with angels. So I was like, what is happening? Because having these excruciating symptoms with my back, and it was all wonky. And then it would happen in meditation where these wings, these appendages would come up. And so I'm like, something is happening. But I had people to talk to about it. When this light language activated, I was like, I don't know anybody who speaks this language or that I can call on and ask to what it is that's going on. And so now that I've been speaking it for about 1.5 years, I'm a lot more versed and educated in what it does. And so one of my gifts is to be able to lead through meditations, as you know. And so what I've started doing is incorporating the light language into the meditations. And because I have awoken to my acute senses and my psychic abilities, what I can see is that when somebody is receiving the light codes, it activates different parts of themselves that are sleeping. So we like to say it activates dormant DNA. And simultaneously, because I can see how they are receiving it, I can, in some cases, it's not a full translation. This is one of the most frequently asked questions I get is, can you translate it? Well, the thing is that it's not meant for translating. The key about the light codes and the light language is that it is partly designed to bypass the egoic consciousness. So if I set the intention to clarifying, let's say, shadow trauma attributes that have been passed down from the mother's family line. So we don't even know. We could go back 6 generations and you don't actually know what happened to your mother's 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 mother and what trauma she was carrying in silence, the things that she never spoke about or anything like that. But it goes down that family line. So if I was to say that here, and there may be some people that are listening that are like, yeah, I don't believe that. Do we really activate the dormant DNA? I don't know. Do we, prove it? All the analytics. And that's fine. That's totally fine. I am the most analytical psychic you will probably ever meet. I can't tell you how stubborn I was with my guides when I first started this journey and how many times I was like, prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it. I had to test it so many times before I moved through my own doubt and skepticism. But that's the beautiful thing about the light codes is that it's so powerful and it's so clear that it bypasses any negativity or limiting belief systems that the egoic structure and the egoic consciousness would deflect or kind of push away from allowing the person to receive the medicine that's there through the meditations. And it starts to illuminate those frequencies from the inside out. And here's the other quick thing that I'll say before handing it back over to you is that every single person on this planet is capable of speaking light language. This is not something that is reserved for a select few. This is something every single, I'm getting chills as I'm saying it, every single human being has the capabilities to be able to speak it. And it is the most, hands down, the most powerful medicine that I have found in my 10 years of healing and sitting in all sorts of shaman circles and all sorts of, like, I have really traversed and explored the new age healing facilities of alternative medicine. And what I can say hands down is this is the fastest and most streamlined energetic healing that I've been able to find because of how much it bypasses the egoic consciousness, which ultimately is designed to protect us, even if it doesn't know what is actually in the best of the opening of the higher self experience in the human body.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And I mean, it's so intriguing. I'm sure the people who are listening are going to go and look that up. And I'm sure that your channel, you guys all need to get on her YouTube and you've done several different, different videos of that. And, I know that a lot of people who are going to be listening to because I talk about meditation, at least as far as like what helps me. And I know that there's a lot of newbies out there as well, because you were, in fact, I was wanting to listen to your one meditation the other night because you were saying, listen to this and it will make you go to sleep. And I like I say, I've listened to several of yours, and I'm so excited for people to get to know who you are and what you do and what you stand for and all the different things that you offer, because this lady gives so much free information on her YouTube. It's just like unreal. I mean, you just listen to it and you just like, I don't remember which actual video it was, but it was one of your meditations. And I was feeling, a very, uncalming one night. And I remember I happened to be on Facebook or Instagram or something, and you came on and you're like, okay, this is going to be, an awesome meditation for you to start. And so for those of you who are listening and you're just like, I don't know how to meditate, I don't know how to do this, because I hear that and you're going to say that. And all you got to do is just put on Sitara and you just listen and do what she says to do. In fact, the very first time, I wasn't a meditator, believe it or not, before I met you in Dallas. I just started learning about it. I wish I found it many years ago, like in my 20s or even my teen years. And I teach my kids about this, and because it's so powerful. And in Dallas, you led a meditation as well in a group. You just say, hey, would you guys like me to lead a meditation? And we're all like, sure, whatever, and you did it. And I remember how powerful I felt. And then, so these other meditations that you're doing and you're offering, for these people to listen to, and, you guys can be in bed at night, put on your, or not even put on your headphones. I just put mine on speaker, and it's incredible. I mean, you'll see what I'm talking about whenever you go and listen to her. I mean, there's many people that you can listen to, but like if you listen to Sitara, you're just like, wow. I mean, you just, I felt so good the next morning. I just felt like it just, I don't know what it did, but I'm sure it whatever, I don't understand this whole space as much. Like I'm not as advanced and that, but I do know that, like, as you begin your steps in your journey, and that's what I did with your Earth Angels program. I mean, I think I was the most newbie in that group. You remember? Because like all the other people, same in Dallas, or any of these other things. But I think all of you guys who are listening need to know that you don't have to be, this advanced person and think that you have to know everything, about the light language or about meditation or about any of this stuff. You just have to begin somewhere, and you can just take one of the videos and start listening. Sitara, you give seriously so much information. You guys have no idea. I mean, she should be charging like thousands and thousands of dollars for this information, and people would pay it. But she's out there, giving of her heart, and that's just the kind of person that she is. And so you met, and that's okay about the dogs, guys, because she's in Bali of all places. I can hear the dogs. And so that's kind of where I wanted to go to, is like, I met you in Dallas, and then I went to one of your retreats in Reno, and then you went to LA, and then you ended up in Bali, and you've been in Bali for what, a couple of years now? I can't believe it's been that long. Is that how long it's been?
A year and a half. Yeah. I came here for 2 months and a year and a half. And so I lovingly and jokingly call it the Great Fall of 19 was like where I had I had a full life implosion. It was like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I can't tell you how much shame as a Wonder Woman I had about that, because I'm like, it should not be this bad. It should not be falling apart like this. Like, oh my gosh. And now that I've experienced this last year, I genuinely believe that I was being protected in a way that I couldn't even understand or relate to at that time. I feel that because I was living in the center of downtown, which when the race riots were happening, there were tanks going through literally my neighborhood, the streets that I was living on.
I remember.
Yeah. And with everything that's happened through this last year and the lockdowns, I was living in an apartment without even a balcony. I would have been losing my mind. And I felt like I got a divine swoop. I felt, because I put everything in storage. I had found a place for my dog to be for a while, who now is in a beautiful, loving home with 3 other dogs. And like, they send me pictures. I'm like, okay, I don't know that that's my dog anymore.
Love that dog.
But he's such a treasure. And so I felt that the universe had actually created this implosion to get me to be here for this last year. so that I could be experiencing. We are in such a little micro bubble here on Bali. Like, we have not been experiencing we've had some lockdowns, but we have not been experiencing the shutdowns. The locals here need the circulation of the expat money to help stimulate the economy, because they're used to having millions of tourists here to fund their entire economy. So now it's like this little bubble that we're in. I feel that we are being incubated. I really genuinely believe that the community that I am surrounded by it's power packed with the next generation of way showers. I just got chills again. Undoubtedly so. That we are here in almost like an elevated spiritual training camp to be able to share the knowledge and information that we have been experiencing during this time, as we all go back, because everybody that I know is from a different continent. It is an actual melting pot, not a United States melting pot where everyone talks the same. It is an actual melting pot where everyone has completely different accents and speaks different languages and comes from completely different backgrounds. And so to have these experiences here and now has helped me hindsight to see how that experience was serving me, even though as I was going through it, it was horrible. And it shaped me in such a way that it broke me open to be able to receive higher levels of consciousness and higher levels of surrender, what it means to truly surrender on a deeper level, and this opening. And as I'm speaking to this, I really feel that in sharing this story and where with everybody is and how difficult this year has been, it doesn't even matter where you are. I mean, for me to be this far away from my family as this has been happening has been hands down the hardest part. But the experience itself that we are all living through, as I've been calling it, the Great Awakening, like when this experience began, there was an excitement that bubbled up inside of me that the only way that I can describe was like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm this age. This is why I've had these life experiences. This is why I've been through this training. So those of us, I'm just fully full of chills right now. So those of us and those listening that are resonating with understanding the term way shower, even if you don't know what it means, that we are here to lead and evoke a certain type of awakening that is available to those on this planet with eyes to see and with ears to hear, that are going to continue to anchor light and contribute to the shift from the chaotic world that we're existing in, that is starting to be more repressed through different levels of control and policing by community and that sort of thing, that the more that we can encourage our own individuation and our own divine sovereignty. This doesn't mean individuation in abandonment. This doesn't mean individuation in lack of paying attention or bypassing what's going on. What it means is by being able to peel away the layers of programming that say, follow directions, go with the pack, go with the flow, conform in these ways. It's find what is so active in the core of your true heart, your internal divine resonance, that the more that you connect in that way, the more that you will be able to show up as a speaker or a motivational speaker or a guide or a nurturer or a sound healer or somebody or a politician that is speaking from an open state of consciousness. I really believe that humanity is at a state that we are more open. We are so much more open than we ever have been, even though it seems like we're so much more closed. And it seems like we're so much more divided. But the truth is that when a heart breaks, that's how the light gets in. When a life implosion happens, that's when great change is evoked. And right now we're going through that at the same time. We're going through a collective awakening. And so I do believe that because we are human beings, we are the conduits between realms, meaning We are multi-dimensional beings. This is the part of you that exists before the moment of conception, and it's a part of you that exists after the body stops working. And so that aspect of, that aspect of our own consciousness connects with the unseen world all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. And so the best thing that you can do for yourself is become aware of what we would call the unseen world, so that you begin to know how it works. But as you do that, you're awakening to your true self. And your true self is like your human brain cannot even fathom the true expansion and the true expression of you and your wholeness, of you and your totality. And so just by even taking these baby steps, and it's like every little bit of light language that we hear opens the door a little bit more, and opens the door a little bit more, and opens the door a little bit more. But these existential questions are so important to be asking right now. Like, where did I come from? Why am I here? What is my purpose on this planet? What is actually going on a global scale behind the story we've been told? And feel in the nature of your body. Truly feel in the nature of your body by allowing your body to become the compass that navigates each step as the world opens for you, as you open to the world. And that's when that's for me, when I start feeling really alive, is when I'm starting to connect with the infinite nature of my inner being, and also walking that path with other people who have activated their eyes to see and their ears to hear, to connect with the world in a different way than they have before. And that's what I feel like this time is. That this is the time that we are here to wake up in a large scale and a big way.
I feel like, as I'm listening to you, like, you know, you were in Los Angeles and then you're in Bali. And I feel like, you know, some people are going to be listening to this audio and you don't get to see Samantha, but I mean, I've seen you, you know, like, when it was really, really crazy in LA, and I see you now, and the progression of you, you know, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in every way is just incredible to see your transformation, you know, and the things that you're talking about right now, that because you're in Bali, you know, like, I don't know if you would have learned all of the things. And you said something when you were talking about that, and I think that people would resonate with too. And that is, there's things that happen in our life and it happens for a reason, you know, and like with your situation, like, what got you to go to Bali? You know, maybe if certain things didn't happen, you would still be in LA or wherever, you know what I mean? And I look back at my own life, and I'm sure people who are listening are also thinking that too. Like, if this particular situation didn't happen, then the growth that I learned from that hard, you know, whatever it is that you were doing and going through. And we've all been through hard things, you know, and some still going through hard things on a daily basis. But like, that just helps us to become that much stronger, you know, and that much more, like what you're saying, like, people who are also listening are probably going to only hear this for the very first time, what you're talking about. And then they're going to start going, oh, you know, light language. Oh, Sitara Faye, YouTube channel, Transformational Tuesdays, you know, all the things that you stand for. And then it's just helping yourself, like, being able to be open to some of these things, you know? And I think also, and we're going to probably end on this note, but I think one of the things that I've loved watching you do over the last 30 days or whatever, you went through and I want you to kind of talk to people about this, because I see it in you and your overall being. You're just full of light and love, and you always are, but I can see an extra glow. And so those of you who are on the audio, you can catch the video on the Facebook group, Joy Reveals. But before we go, I want you to kind of tell people, like, what made you decide to do this cleanse? You know, I mean, you're going through all this kind of stuff, and then basically tell them why, and then tell them the benefits that you've seen from it, and maybe, you know, why we all should do it.
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely will. So to describe a little bit more of what you are referring to is I actually left Bali. I went to an island called Lembongan, as I joyfully call it, the Bongan. It is an island. I honestly do not believe it exists in the third dimension. I know that it does, and I know that you can see it on a map, and I know that people can be there. But when I was there, I was like, I'm not living in the world. I'm not living in the world that I knew. Like, this is a different world. It's a different sensation. And it was very, very clear. It was very pure energy. I had been there for about a month-ish before, and then I decided to move there and do a fruit detox. I had a friend that had been doing a fruit detox for about 7 weeks. She was really gung-ho about it. And so I was inspired by her, but I also just felt that that was what my body needed. And it was because I was experiencing really fast-paced spiritual growth breakthroughs consistently, like boom, boom, boom. And what ended up happening was that I would go through them, but then my body, my physical body, was extremely fatigued, and I just wasn't able to like keep up. So my body was clunk, 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 clunk. It would be like if you haven't changed the oil in your car for a while and then the car just doesn't run as clearly. And so I felt that I just needed to check in. And I'm well versed in cleansing. I wouldn't say I'm a cleanse specialist by any means. I've never let anybody else through their own cleanse, but I have done a bunch of cleansing and detoxes for myself. This one was really significant. Honestly, I could lead a whole hour class, which I actually did in my advanced level metaphysical club class, as to what actually happened during that time period, which gets really far out there as far like I had I don't even know that I want to talk about it here. No, we'll talk about it another time. Keep following me and we'll get into it. But now this is not the time or place. So the fruit detox, one of the things that I noticed, this was significant, was that I was in a car accident in 2015 and I broke my nose on a steering wheel and I also bruised my chin. And so when I bruised my chin, it created scar tissue, like really hard scar tissue that I could even feel up until 2 months ago that was in there. And so what happened even during the fruit detox was that I started to notice that there was like a hickey looking thing showing up on my chin. And I realized that that was the scar tissue actually detoxing. Wow. That it was the scar tissue coming out of my body, out of my skin. And that for me was like, wow, whoa, like this was so deep. And the thing, when I'm eating fruit, I feel so deeply connected to God and so deeply connected to Source, Sophia, Christ, whatever you want to call that, the energy of the Creator. For me, all terms are welcome. But I kept having these really strong and extraordinary epiphanies every time that I was eating. And so as I was growing very quickly at a rate that was more rapid than I was even used to, and I've been on my own growth edge for over 10 years, just in a constant state of growth. And this one felt very significant. But what I found was that anything that came up emotionally and past life stuff and past trauma stuff and repressed memories, like all of it starts to come up when you're doing a detox, because it's these memories and vibrational imprints are stored in the body. And so when we're constantly eating, and especially if we're constantly eating processed food or things that are toxifying our body, it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. Same with like a car running and not getting the oil changed or the filters changed or these sorts of things. But what I noticed was that anything that came up just took a moment of acknowledgement, and then it would just slip right out. So it made the emotional journey of growth very, very, very simple and very clear. And here's the ha funny part is that these are the things that the fruit detox taught me. And of course, in conjunction with several other things that have been going on in my world about awakening and ahas and wanting to go home. I had this really deep, almost like a subtle depression of being human, where I was punishing myself for being human because I just wanted to be home. I'm like, this is dense. This hurts. These emotions suck. I don't like this. that person was mean to me. Like, it's just like, sometimes it just feels like you're in a living battlefield. And so, and I've been home, I've been with God, I've been in these places, I've experienced it, and I've just wanted to go there. And so being on this fruit detox, it gave me this really powerful appreciation for life, appreciation for my humanness, appreciation for humanity, appreciation for this earth, appreciation for all aspects of it, all of the judge-worthy aspects of this world that we live in. All of a sudden, I could see the purpose and intention of all of it. And I could also see where humanity is making the circumstances that we're living in worse for itself and simultaneously better for itself, in a lot of ways. And so it was like the periphery of my perspective really, really opened, and I could see and feel and sense so much more, which oftentimes it gets overwhelming to live in that space.
Yeah.
So coming off the fruit detox and coming back to Bali, it's like getting just back into being a human rather than like the multidimensional self that just exists in this tiny human body.
Yeah.
And so the other thing, it taught me to have as much fun being a human as possible. I learned that illuminated light that is inside of me, that is what I call the monad, which is why I don't call it that. It's a word that I learned from the esoteric philosophy that has been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So monad is the indivisible spark of source frequency. And this is frequency that we're talking about, or consciousness. So it's the indivisible spark at the absolute core of our soul. And so that spark right there is the same frequency that exists in all living and all sentient beings. And so what I really learned with that is how many layers I had piled up between my heart and my mind that taught me that I am not that, and that frequency and that consciousness does not live inside of me. And through this, and I've known that concept before, but through the fruit detox and living on that island, I felt it in such a more powerful way that I became the embodiment of it more so than I had in the past. And I do believe that there's room for me to embody that frequency and that consciousness even more. And that's actually the glow that you're seeing. That's the glow that you're feeling. That's the glow that you're resonating at. That's the magnetism that I feel I'm exuding more now than I have before. It's that I'm allowing myself to embody the pure positive presence of the creator of all creation, in whatever way you want to see that. Like, I'm not here to split hairs or kind of dive into that. I can, but again, time and place. It's that, like, that's the glow that you're seeing. This is the part that I kind of giggle about, is that I also have hypothyroidism and I'm prone to Hashimoto's in my family. And so the fruit detox actually told me that I needed to eat meat. It was like, stop messing with your biology. Your blood type O. These are the things that you need to do to take care. This is why the fatigue is happening, yada, yada, yada. So I think I could have been good around 3 weeks. And then mentally, I tried to push myself because my agreement was to go a full month. And I think that last week actually like pushed the pendulum a little bit far, because I wasn't listening to my body. I was allowing my mind, my structured masculine, like, I made an agreement mind, push it further than I needed to. And that was another lesson for me that I am still fine tuning, is that my female intuition and the knowledge that my body has shared extraordinary wisdom with me that my mind will still bulldoze and override sometimes. And so I'm still learning to fine tune that and humble my egoic consciousness enough to listen to my divine feminine presence and intuition that speaks through me. And I know I am not alone in that.
For sure. I'm sure people who are listening to this, that is so powerful. And you're just beautiful to watch talk about it. You can just see yourself glowing and lighting up as you're talking about your fruit cleanse that you did. And that was such a beautiful thing to watch you go from, and maybe one day I will do that. But what's interesting is we're also both type O. We just have so many things in common that we're talking about. And so before we let everybody go, I know that you are, I don't know if it's already started or you're about to start it. You have like a 7-week course. Is it coming up or is it already started or?
So it's already been created. We have already packaged it up beautifully. It's called 7 Weeks to Embody Your Higher Self, which actually is, it's a course that is designed to help you open the spaciousness inside of your body, to release densities, to release viral programming, to really feel that divine sovereignty within that comes from the expression of embodying your higher self, which is actually what I was just talking about.
Yeah.
So it's a 7-week course. It's 1 hour meditation every single week, but then your intuition will tell you how many times to listen to that specific recording before you go on to the next one. So it's a co-creation of a self-study with a guide, your higher self. It has already changed an extraordinary amount of lives. I'm still getting testimonials from it from people that are like, wow, I cannot believe this. And it's been enough that it has really encouraged me to continue to stay focused on this specific topic and lane of how thirsty we all are without knowing what we're thirsty for. And so that is the opening and the entry level sort of course that will bring people into a state of being able to start consuming the higher level advanced programs that I also lead, which I did learn sort of the hard way that we need to bring people up to that level of their own conscious awareness to be able to start to divulge in those concepts and up levels and spiritual technology that comes through with it.
You have so many different awesome things that you're going. And I know we definitely will put the link, in the show notes and all that kind of stuff. But for those who are listening on audio, is there like a website that you can go to that they can, and we'll spell it out for them later, but as they're listening, what would that, do you have that handy or the link for that class?
Yes. It's monadsociety.com / and this is all capital letters, higher self.
That's perfect.
It's monad, MONAD, society.com. Yeah. / all caps, higher self.
That's easy to remember for the listeners. And we definitely will put it in, like I say, when we upload this, it will be in the comments and on the show notes of the show. And as we end this, I'm just thinking about, what this whole podcast, we've talked about so many different subjects, but all in the end, as I hear you talking about becoming, on the road to your higher self, and we're all about that and just trying to work toward that. And I know, just listening to you again, I haven't connected with you in a while, and just listening to you here tonight. And I'm sure the listeners, thank you guys for taking the time to listen. And you really need to go and check out her channel. Is it just Sitara Faye on YouTube? That's what they would look for if they're trying to find you on YouTube?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And then same on Instagram, same name and everything like that. So with that, I thank you so much. I know you're such a busy lady and you took the time out to, come on this interview along with the dogs. See, it lasted at the very end, right there. True Bali. It's awesome. Yep. So thank you.
They're my protectors.
There you go.
They're not my dogs, but they're my protectors.
There you go. Well, thank you guys who are on here that are going to be listening to this. And this is going to be, on here for you to share with your friends. Go look up Sitara Faye. She's amazing, as you guys can see. And again, Sitara, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here on the Joy Reveals podcast. And we hope to hear more about you and follow you and see all the cool things that you're doing. So thanks again for being on here.
Thank you for tuning in. We value our listeners. To access all of the links and resources mentioned in today's show, head over to www.joyreveals.com. That's www.joyreveals.com.